Hello, everybody. Welcome to HBCU Drumline Talk. My name is Ricardo Reese, and I'm joined by my great friend, my brother in percussion, Elijah Powell. And Elijah, man, we are back at it once again. And every time we do one of these episodes, I get so excited because I just think had we had this when we were coming up, I'd probably be dialed in every week constantly waiting for the next episode. So, the amount of schools that we've seen has been tremendous. The amount of folks that we've talked to, a wealth of knowledge, a wealth of information for our viewers, for myself, and I'm sure for you, E. We just had Professor Johnny Lee Lane on, a great episode, so much history in that episode as well. And what'd you think about that, E?
I learned a lot. I'm sure you learned a lot, and
Okay, so yeah, with that audio, we're having some audio difficulties on your end, but we'll keep it going at this point. I think Elijah, when you and I marched, I think what's the furthest that we went and played a school up north?
up north,
Yeah,
uh, the further we went, I would say we didn't go up north. I don't think.
if I really think about it, I think the furthest we went was probably up in Maryland. Bowie was probably like the furthest that we went. And just for our viewers out there, when we talk about HBCU drumlines, we talk about the MEAC, we talk about the CIAA, the SEAC, the SWAC. You got some independent schools out there as well. But today we're actually going to talk about a school in the MEAC that's up north. And for our viewers out there, we want to introduce Mr. Michael Purnell from Delaware State.
Hey,
And
what's going on, everybody?
it's a great pleasure to have you on and everything. And it's all about you today, Mr. Purnell. We're going to speak. You're going to tell us about, your journeys with percussion and everything. And before we get started and jump on, do you have any questions for us?
Um, nah, man, not as of yet, man. I'm a conversationalist, so as the conversation goes on, I'll be able to grab some stuff to ask you guys. But I will say it's an honor, and it's humbling to be on you guys' show and for you guys to be able to recognize the work that we're doing at Delaware State University. So thank you.
Hey, it's no problem, man. You guys are doing some great work up there. So we're going to jump right into it, Mike. So set aside the drumline aspect of it. How did you jump into percussion? When did you get your start?
Um, I think a lot of percussionists that I talk to may have kind of a similar story to me. I started in the church. Um, I started playing the drum set. I really didn't know anything about marching band or anything like that. I started playing for churches when I was about 9 years old with my father, um, and did that all the way until about 16 years old, and that's when I got into band. I would see the band in elementary school and middle school. I was like, man, I don't want to do that. That's corny. I don't want to play the Lion Sleeps Tonight and Star Wars themes and all of that type of stuff. I'm good on that. But then I ended up going to my high school up here in Newcastle, Delaware, William Penn High School, which is a core style band program. One of my friends invited me to, he called it a lesson, but I ended up getting to the school with him and saw that it was pre-camp for their marching band. And I was like, oh snap, I think I want to do this. I was with his mom. I didn't even have my parents with me. So I went and talked to the band director, and he said they had a spot. And the funny thing is, I didn't even end up joining until my sophomore year. Like I didn't do it my freshman year. I joined my sophomore year, and I started out on bass. And I learned how to read music, learned about rudiments and everything in that summer before we had the season. I actually had to like crash course myself into everything to play tonal basses and read music so that we could be successful that season. And that was the start of me being in band. I'm sorry, in marching percussion. And then from there, I kind of got into what we have up here called drill teams. I'm sure they have them around the country and stuff like that, but it's really big in the tri-state area of Philly, Pennsylvania, or Philly, Jersey, and Delaware, where we do a lot of drill team competitions and stuff like that. And they were really big in the late '90s and early 2000s. So I got into that, and that took me to Delaware State, where I got introduced to the approach and storm, and being an alum, now I'm there teaching.
Man, this is a familiar story, EP. We've heard this so many times with, including myself, including with yourself. How do we get started in percussion? It leads back to a great thing, an important thing. Church. I started in church as a drummer, picked it up, and family members had an influence as well. Got into high school, and now here we are today.
Mhm.
Yeah, man. Thank you.
Yes,
Okay,
sir.
good, good. So, how would you describe the audition process for an incoming freshman who is interested in being in your drum line?
The audition process, I would think is I think like any audition process, it can be nerve wracking. We definitely require our musicians to know their rudiments, the basic knowledge of the basic 40, as well as having knowledge of the hybrid rudiments. As we know, as percussion has evolved, hybrid rudiments have become more prominent in the playing of percussion and snare players and multi-tenor players, quad players. So that is a part of the audition process, as well as being able to sight read, because we want to make sure that people are able to read the literature of music. Um, Sometimes you don't have a vast requirement for people to read music, because you can rote teach and stuff like that, and that's a part of what we do as well. I think that's in all conferences, whether it's Division 1 with the SWAC and the MEAC, or Division 2 with the CIAA and SIAC, we rote teach some things. So you definitely want your students to have that ability to be able to learn through rote. But that sight reading aspect is definitely there, so that people can read the literature of the craft that they're a part of. Um, and then we also double that up with mallet percussion knowledge, understanding their 12 major scales and the chromatic and things of that nature, and then the prepared piece. So we want to see what they can do um, outside of the structure of the audition. So bring your talent, your skill, show us what you can actually do from your creative mindset, so we can know the type of player that you are, and what you will be able to bring to the table as an asset to the section and to the band program.
I said, there you go, freshman, becoming freshman. That's he gave you some information. If you want to join, there you go. What we need to work on.
Yeah, so good point there. So if you incoming freshmen that's coming in, just touching back on, be familiar with the 40, those 40 rudiments. Do you feel that have you seen this, if you don't mind me asking, a lot of incoming freshmen, they're really, really looking at those hybrid rudiments, and they're really on those hybrids and really haven't really put the time into the 40, even the original ones?
Yeah, I definitely see that a lot. I actually run into a lot of high school players from this area who come to me because now that we're more so on the map for upgrading and evolving through music with our section, and being more attractive to those students that want to come. They ask me for tips and things of that nature, and I'm like, you got to work on the basics and the foundation first. And I think a lot of young musicians skip those foundational steps and want to go right to the stuff that's exciting with the high mom stuff and your book reports and your blue cheese and stuff. Like, oh, that's great that you understand the concept of that. Now, how do you execute it? Like, if you don't have the foundation of those 40, if you can't give me a proper flam accent that has a strong foundation, there's a lot of hybrid rudiments that encompass that. Or if you can't give me a proper paradiddle, with that accent based on the downbeat, and have a quality diddle, excuse me. Um, there's a lot of rudiments, hybrid rudiments, especially that are based off the paradiddle. So I do find a lot of people skip over that, like, no, I'm good on that, man. I can kind of, flood my way through it, and they'll be impressed by this. And, when you go into the audition, we're specifically looking for accurate knowledge and application of the fundamentals, so that, we know that exactly what you're doing with the craft. So.
That's good. So with the incoming freshmen, and I'm sure you have feeder schools that you draw from, and like you said, around in your area, you have these freshmen that come in. What type of core values do you instill in the drumline especially for the incoming freshman for the eye of the storm?
Okay. It's funny. I just had this conversation. The breed of student that we get up here is a little bit different, and I'm pretty sure it's kind of similar everywhere else. I just haven't been there different places as of yet since being back into the activity and the craft. Um, but these students have a little bit different. Their makeup is a little bit different than when I came into school. So the most important thing for me is character, integrity. I want to make sure that their integrity is there because in the collegiate level, especially with the HBCU show style bands, there's a lot that we have to learn, especially in the drumline. Um, we got our cadences, our marching cadences, and your traditional cadences that you know are played by alumni and stuff like that. And I want to be able to make sure that an individual has enough integrity to, when you get an assignment, you're going to sit down and actually do the assignment. You know what I mean? If you're given a task, you're going to sit down and actually do the task that's been given. Um, and then, well, let me go ahead and do this. Let me go down the list. It's integrity, perseverance, excuse me, discipline, um, musicianship, and excellence. Those are the values that we look for in individuals, just to and not to say we look for it, but those are the things that we build in individuals when they come to the section. Um, and when I say excellence, I mean execution in excellence, which is your detail and things of that nature. When you're playing and how you look and how you sound and all of that good stuff. So
Right. I think that's very important for every line to have at least some type of core values, that are instilled, especially for incoming freshmen, and a lot of times, and I'm not talking for all freshmen, maybe there's a perception that, hey, look, I'm getting ready to come into the drum line. I'm going to run this drum line.
yep.
I'm the superstar, got all the awards in high school. I'm that dude. Right. So, the good thing is sometimes it's really humbling to really sit back and understand, hey, look, this is the way we do things here. There's a lot of things out there that we can see on YouTube or that folks can look on YouTube and say like, hey, man, this is a great picture, but this is what we do here at Delaware State. And I'm glad you brought that up for integrity, perseverance, discipline, excellence in playing as well. I think you said one more, musicianship as well. So that's good. That's some good points. Thank you.
No problem. No problem.
So what is the ultimate vision for Delaware State's drumline, the Eye of the Storm?
So the vision for the Eye of the Storm. Man, that's an interesting question. And not to say that the vision hasn't been thought about or is intact. There's been so much change with the drumline and with the band program. It's been quite a task to kind of formulate everything into one direction to make things happen. I don't think everybody even known that we went through yet another band director change just this right before the pandemic hit. So sometimes it's hard to do that when your director may have a different vision for what they want the drumline to be. As most know, um, when they see Eye of the Storm, we changed our instrumentation. We were very much a mirror image of Southern University's drumline, which is where a lot of our previous band directors came from. So we were basically Scotch tenor, snare, and cymbal for a really long time. In 2001, we went to tonals and quints, and we tried that for about 2 years, and then they ended up going back all the way up until 2017 when we went back to tonals and quints. So my main goal for the drumline has been to elevate musicianship, for them to understand the craft that they are a part of and that they're partaking in, so that we can, produce a brand that's attractive to good musicians. We want to develop not a new way of doing things, but an elevated way of doing things that encompasses the tradition, so that the section can be recognizable to our alumni, but it also shows how we've been able to move forward with the way music and percussion has evolved through time.
Okay. Cool.
Cool. Just one thing that I noticed, Mike, is that you guys have an interesting name. The Drumline itself, Eye of the Storm, right? So how did you guys, has that name always been in existence? If it has been, that's good. If it hasn't, how did that name come into play? How did that name evolve?
Well, it's funny because I did some research on Virginia State as well, and I realized Virginia State's band name has changed a few times in its history. You guys weren't always the Trojan Explosion, and that's the way we have been. When we first started our band program and it had an actual name back in the late '70s and '80s, we were the Marching Masters, and our percussion section name was Afterblast. When we got a new band director in the '90s, Mr. Randolph Johnson, he changed the band's name to the Approaching Storm in 1990. And at that time, the percussion really didn't have a section name until, and this is how it came about. It's funny because I actually like this story. Um, in the show, a dance routine. Usually in a dance routine, the tubas and drums, we're in the center of the field, and we just lay the foundation, lay the groove in the bass line, and the rest of the band does what they do, or whatever, blah blah blah. This particular show, the band director decided to have the drums and the tubas dance. So the announcer said, "Give it up for the Eye of the Storm, the center of the approaching storm, the drum and tuba section," as they began to dance and things of that nature. And the tuba section already had their own name. So the percussion section actually took that name, the Eye of the Storm, as we're the center strength of the band program, and we adopted that name ourselves in 1994, and that became our section name. Has been our section name since then.
94, huh?
94.
Let me just say this, E, and this is something that's kind of funny. We have done this for quite some time, right?
Yep.
This is the first time anyone has come on and gave us history about Virginia State. So
Yeah.
thank you. But
He was right.
I had to do some research. I hadn't been in the game for a while, so I was like, let me do some research on some cats that we may see. And it's crazy because we ended up seeing you guys in New York. I think in 2019 it was for a Harlem parade. We ended up seeing the band.
Yeah.
So thank you for that. And that's really interesting. I think you pretty much brought some things to light. There are a lot of marching bands out there who go through that transition and have to go through that name change, and the name that actually sticks. After Blast or Master Blasters, I mean, it just didn't seem like it would stick. But Eye of the Storm.
Don't do that to my big brothers and sisters, man. Don't do that to them.
Marching Masters, After Blast. Okay, Eye of the Storm is a little bit more catchy, and that's good. And we speak about identity, and you really touched on this because, like I said, we've been following. I noticed that there's been a change from 14 years ago, just in the drum line itself, what you guys sounded like, what you guys look like. 14 years ago, 8 years ago, 3 years ago, and now what you guys look like now. And there has been an evolution through that time. And I know you said at one point, for identity purpose, you guys, the identity of the drum line was based off Southern, right?
Yeah.
Because I can remember it had, didn't really use tonal bass drums. You actually had a tenor. I think it was like upright tenors, I believe.
Yep, chest tenors, yep.
Chest tenors and everything. And then that sound lasted all the way probably about 3 years ago, right? What prompted the change?
Again, like I said, band director changes, man. Like we got a new band director, and he just looked at some things and was just like, I want to get better musicians in here for the percussion section. And he always liked the way tonal basses and quints sounded for a band program, especially at the collegiate level, especially in this region. For the East Coast, I don't think there's any drum line that marches solely Scotch and tenor for their line. So you think about it, as you're recruiting high school students and things of that nature, they're used to a particular style and a way of playing, you wanted to recruit them to your program and elevate their playing in the way that they're kind of used to playing. Just giving them more education and more approaches and techniques and stuff like that to refine and define the way that they play. And it was kind of hard to do that and recruit people that come and play for the section that actually understood percussion um, with the style that we had. So the band director change made that happen, and he ordered the drums. And unfortunately, we didn't really have a lot of people around that knew how to kind of instruct that, if that makes sense.
Perfect
Um,
sense.
because of the fact that they have never played with that instrumentation before. And I was asked to come and help, and I only wanted to help. Like I was like, I'm gonna be a guide. I'm gonna come 2 days out the week, bro, because I got a family. I got 3 kids and a wife and stuff like that, and I'm trying to go in my own way. So of course, it being my alma mater, I wanted to help, um, but ended up to the point where when I came in, we needed some real work. And a lot of people don't understand what it really takes to develop a drum line, um, especially on a collegiate level. When you go and compete against the Virginia States of the world and the Norfolks and the A&Ts, you can't come half stepping at all, because cats they will hand you an L. They will hand you an L because of not just material, but the attention to detail, the maturation of their sound. So you can't just come and just I'm gonna just come and play whatever. Nah, that's not how that's gonna work. So the mindset and the mentality had to change for the individual. So
Yeah.
yeah, again, band director changes and their vision for what they want to see their band to be is what changed our sound again.
So can I want to talk on this for a couple of minutes. You mentioned something, man, and I might um, the challenges that you had. Could you talk to us about that? And I asked that for our viewers and our potential instructors out there who might not know about, hey, these are some of the challenges that you may run across in their own lives.
Um, man, the challenges that I had first of all was the mentality of the players, the mentality of the students. Um, Before I came with the previous band director that was there, the mantra was it really doesn't take all of that to have a band. So practice outside of band and things of that nature was not promoted. Um, and I don't really know anybody that's great at anything that doesn't practice. Um, you wouldn't have a Michael Jordan, you wouldn't have a LeBron, you wouldn't have a Kobe, you wouldn't have for some of us who are a little bit older, you wouldn't have a Barry Sanders. If they didn't put the work in outside of practice and outside of games, so that they could prepare themselves to be the best at what they do. And that was one of the main things. I think a lot of our students just wanted to come and just play. We just gonna play, and we gonna have fun. But it's not fun when you step in front of another drum line and they playing that material that's bumping and they look good and they giving you all the watts. You know what I'm saying? Like it's it's really bad, man. And I know that from experience, man. Like I tell the students a lot, man. I don't want you guys to have horror stories when you play another drum line. Like I want you guys to be able to say, "Yo, we stood in front of that line, and we gave our best, and they did theirs." Because again, battles, winners and losers is about opinion. It's about what you like. It's about what you heard, what you saw, whatever. Um, but quick story, my sophomore year, 2003, Delaware State, we went back to the Scotch and tenors. We were a small line, 4 snares, I think 2 Scotches, 2 tenors, like 3 cymbals. And Norfolk State came up. Now this was in, this is when Norfolk State was probably like 300, man. Like they were huge at that time. And they
Yeah.
had just got them white dynasty drums. I think that was like the beginning of William Bethea's tenure there as the percussion instructor. Um, and these jokers, proceeded after the fifth quarter to go down to our 50-yard line and block up. And we went down, and it was probably one of the worst experiences as a percussionist that I've ever had. And I was not used to taking L's like that, man. Like I told you, high school lines and stuff, we won our competitions when I was in high school, and the drill teams that I was a part of, we were top notch in our area. And I was not used to taking L's like that, and I was not okay with it. And like just to feel 8 bass drums in your face, to hear the clean beats and the quads and doing what they was doing, I'm like, that's what I want to do, man. And you got people, you walking away and you hear people like, man, like all of they beats sound like they from the 70s and this, that, and the third. And I'm like, yo, that's not a good feeling.
Yeah.
That's not a good feeling. I never wanted, the individuals who marched under me to feel that way. So we definitely wanted to try to change the narrative for musicians that, one, were there, and two, were going to come. So the mentality of it had to change. I don't think competitiveness was really at Delaware State when I came back to teach, because it wasn't a lot of bands that came up to Delaware State, so they really didn't understand what the competitive nature of what we do is.
So was that because of, I guess, not having that practice outside of band practice? I guess the reason why that battle turned out like that, or?
I wouldn't say it wasn't at that time that I was there. It wasn't the practice outside of practice. I think it was the lack of exposure and creativity.
Yeah.
We kind of were just stuck in the tradition of, this is what we do. So like we play our traditional stand cadences and some block stuff, and that's it. But we never really took time to creatively sit down and get in the lab and make up new material and push each other to be better on our instruments. And that was something I wasn't accustomed to. We kind of just came to practice and just, did whatever.
Yeah.
So with me coming and getting onto the staff and helping the students, I began to push them to be better. We're not satisfied with what was. We can't be satisfied with what was. We have to always push ourselves to continue to grow and be better, because there's always learning in this craft. Like no one person stops learning in their craft. So
Okay.
that was one thing that I definitely started to instill in the students when I came in.
I'm gonna jump in, Mike, and just say this, and EP, you can probably chime in on this as well. You said something that I took a note on, and the students' mentality and changing the narrative of a program. And best believe, I will tell you this. I've been watching you guys for quite some time, and the narrative has changed. All right. Whether you had that one experience, okay, cool. That might have been like the eye opener. Hey, look, we need to be relevant in this game, or else, it's gonna be hard to keep up. And not to say that what you guys were doing in the past wasn't good. I'm just saying, hey, look, to be relevant in this type of situation, to be competitive, and you got to change that narrative.
Yeah.
You got to change that mindset. I believe this, and I'm sure you believe that as well. What do you think about that, EP?
Yeah. I mean, you're right. Get it spot on. In order to be relevant, the way I guess marching percussion is changing, got to be spot on.
Yeah, man. I
Yeah.
mean, one thing I do believe we had, and not I believe, but we did have discipline. Like that's one thing that we had. Like when we got into practice, everybody understood, you know, the they understood the direction, they understood the vision, they understood, you know, what the mentality of the seriousness of the situation. It was just, again, as programs started to evolve, we kind of didn't. So it made us look like we were like falling behind everybody. Like I said in the beginning, you saw the evolution of Norfolk's drumline. They've always been a very technical drumline, but as their instrumentation changed, they went from plastic heads to Kevlar. They went from the Mylar to the Kevlar, and increased their instrumentation there. You started to see a lot of material increase, the notes that were played, the degree of difficulty, in cold steel. You saw how they evolved from, I would even say 2003, when they went from having harnesses on their snares to straps, and they went from leg tenors to chest tenors, and things just started to evolve for them. The material started increasing and stuff like that. So as I was watching tape, and I'm like, man, like through all of these years, every other section has evolved and moved up and moved forward in what they were doing in their presentation of their drum lines, and we haven't. So we're almost kind of playing catch up to what people have been doing since, 2000. I would even say 2007. I'll take it there. 2007 is when people really started taking off, with their drum lines and stuff like that. So that's really been what we've been doing, man, playing catch up. Sometimes it feels, like, God, like why can't we be there? But one thing I always would tell my students when I first came in, and I would say it to the drum line and the band, is trust the process.
Yeah.
It feels like right now that we're so far behind, we're not going to catch up. Y'all want to be a great band. Y'all want to do this, that, and the third, but there's levels to this. And people didn't just go from the bottom to the top like automatically. They built it over years. And that's one thing we have not really been allotted when it comes to having a band director who understands the craft of music, who understands branding, and understands having proper instruction in front of the drum line, having that time and those years to be able to build the brand and the product through those years. So
Okay.
Some good points there, man. Thank you, Mike.
Right. Yeah, I can't just say y'all on the right track,
thank you.
doing your thing.
Thank you.
So imagine it's Saturday, a Saturday pre-COVID or after COVID, everything is open back up, and it's game day. What do you listen for or like to see when another HBCU drumline in the MEAC when you guys play them?
What do I listen for or like to see? Oh man. I love to be entertained, man. Like I'm like it's funny because as an instructor, you have to be well rounded. You write for every section and stuff like that. But I've always been partial to the bass drum line. Like even when I marched, I always wanted to march on the side of the bass drums. Um, I just love a really good bass drum line. Shout out to y'all for that, because yo, sheesh. You know what I mean? You can't say tonal bass drum lines in the HBCU spectrum without mentioning y'all's name. Is if they try to do it, they're wrong. So, but yeah,
Appreciate
man, I listen for the bass drum line, man. Like I like to be entertained. I like a lot of funk, man. If you can have me doing this, if you see me doing this with the little bobblehead, yeah, you got me.
Mhm.
You got me. Like if I'm just chilling back, and I'm watching y'all march in, I'm like, you got me, man. You got me. So I look for showmanship. I look for uniformity. Um, and tuning. Tuning is important, man. Like if you come through and you could be playing something funky, but if your drums are not tuned right, I'm like,
Yeah.
nah, no, thank you. So those are three things that I look for, to keep the list small.
Okay. So what is one school you would like to battle against? Whether it's a show in the gym or just straight out on the 50? One school.
I look, I want Winston-Salem, man. Like,
Okay.
and that's personal. That's personal because again, like in this time, like it's two schools, Winston-Salem and Hampton. And the reason why I say those schools, um, because we actually saw those two schools, and we were not prepared. We were not prepared for them because they were both in the beginning of the season. So they kind of got one up, not kind of, but they got one up on us. And in our activity, if you're not prepared, that's bragging rights until you see that person again, and there ain't really nothing you can do about it until y'all square up one more time. So I would definitely want redemption with that. But for exposure and not exposure to say like to put us out there, but exposure for the musicians, I would actually want to see either A&T or Norfolk, because I would want the students to see and experience what it should look like. You know what I'm saying? Um, and not to say they're like the end all be all of what it should look like, because again, there's so many different styles in our culture. But I would want them to definitely see what a quality line is, because as we're building, we need that motivation. So sometimes you need to see where you want to be, and have that vision for you to get that motivation to start moving in that direction.
Okay, good. So with everything that you actually talked about at this point, you pretty much summed up, the how you got into drumming and everything. You talked about how you evolved the sound of Delaware State's Drumline, and the students and everything. So, Mike, I got to ask you, who are some of your percussion influences, whether on or off the field?
You guys, it's
Hey, man, thank you.
like um, one of my when I first got into marching percussion, my favorite, well, again, I was core style when I started. So my favorite core was early 2000s Cavaliers. So Brett Kuhn, um, his style of writing and what he was able to do with their drumline was one of the things that definitely influenced me, um, on that particular level. And then I have some people that were like closer to me. A guy named Tyree Miller, in the drill team circuit and the high school circuit. He actually got me into writing and got me into teaching in the high school level. So he was one of the first guys that took me under his wing and saw my potential. He was like one of my first percussion instructors. Him and a guy named Pat Healy, were very phenomenal in teaching all aspects of percussion through marching percussion. Like we learned how to tune timpani, how to properly play orchestral crashes, how to warm up the gong. Like we got all we got all the teachings in marching band, from these guys. Um, and then you get into just afar, like people from afar. I would have to say Ed Ricks, who was the percussion instructor with Norfolk State for a while, before William Bethea's stint. William Bethea also, and I wasn't joking when I said you guys, because like I said before, Virginia State is definitely up there, man. So I take a lot of different um, influences from a lot of different places and kind of just mix it into one, and make my own kind of gumbo of what I do and how I approach music and things like that.
Good, thank you.
Yeah, yeah, I appreciate that. With this current pandemic, on our end, Zoom has been a challenge, because we couldn't meet, in person, last year, but we made it work, do what it do. Really didn't, affect too much, but in your opinion, how has the current pandemic affected your program?
Oh man, I would have to say it's a tremendous effect on us, because it kind of halted momentum. You know what I mean? We came off of our floor show in fall 2020, with some material that was more difficult than the students were used to, and they were able to execute it, fairly well. Um, and I was hoping that we could continue to build off of that. But then with not being able to meet and give, approaches and techniques where we can be hands-on and interactive and things the way we normally do, that kind of halted a lot of progress with the students. And then, the pandemic hit people with a lot of real life stuff, like outside of music. So music is something that a lot of my students didn't really focus on. They started working and trying to help their family because, as you know, people got laid off. So a lot of my students had to start helping their family and, things of that nature. So it's definitely hit us hard, especially in the fall semester. This spring, though, we've been able to kind of, rejuvenate some of the spark in our students, and we started doing face to face like once a week, So like we got a chance to kind of do some interactive stuff, but um, it definitely hit us hard, man. It definitely hit us hard, especially with recruiting and stuff like that. Once the pandemic hit, Delaware State kind of shut down everything for the band program. Like I told you, we went through another transition with band directors. So once that happened, we kind of, it was a cease and desist for everything. So we pretty much lost 95% of our recruits. So it was like, God, starting from scratch, But I think as of right now, with our interim band director and how things have been going and how he's been able to persevere through the pandemic and kind of adjust through this Zoom era, this virtual era that we have, he's been able to kind of be able to rejuvenate and revive what was lost and really get us to a point where once things start opening up, we'll be able to have a good foundation to stand on.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, this pandemic, man, has hurt people, more ways than one.
Yeah, man.
Like you just said, just cut a lot of people, I guess wanting to go to college to be in a band to, well, I'm just gonna sit out. I'm just gonna go to work. I'm not even going to school now.
Yeah.
I'm gonna do something else in my life. I mean, everything happens for a reason, but yeah, this pandemic, it's really messed some stuff up.
Yeah, man. That it's
Yes.
unfortunate. I definitely say the pandemic has I think it has matured some of the students a little bit, for them to look at life in a different perspective. When you in college, you kind of a little bit freer. You don't really take things as serious as you should. But I think with this particular process and how the pandemic has gone, it has showed our students, maybe I should take things a little bit more serious than I have been. So hopefully, not just even for our program, but for every other program, students come out with a better perspective on how to approach things.
Yeah, for sure, man. Thank you for sharing that. And it's been a challenge for everyone. A lot of bad things took place. A lot of good things came out of this as well. A lot of things were brought to light that going forward will come to fruition and everything for folks to do better at this point. So,
Sure.
Mike, I just want to say, man, you have the work that you guys are doing. I'm really looking forward to seeing more. And I don't really say that too much about, too many drum lines. There's not too many drum lines that I'm like looking forward to seeing, okay, what else are you going to be doing at this point in time? But I'm really, I'm really watching you guys closely to see how things develop and everything. Are you the furthest north MEAC school?
Yeah, we're the MEAC North. It's funny
Yeah.
because we were actually right before the pandemic happened. We were like because like I said, I volunteer and do this because of things with the university and things of that nature. Being an alum, I just wanted to see us, like we said before, rewrite the narrative. And we were talking about just coming out with some new branding things, and we are the farthest north MEAC school, so we are the North, kind of like the Toronto Raptors have for the NBA, like they're the northernmost team. So yeah, we are the North, man, and that's been also a struggle, because we're so far north. You know what I mean? I think we're like an hour and a half, 2 hours away from Morgan, and then you got Howard, and then we go down to Norfolk or whatever like that. So that's also been a challenge for our competitiveness as well. Just being able to see other bands and being able to travel and stuff like that has been an issue. But you know,
Yeah, the traveling and cost,
yeah, man, that thing is real, man. That thing is real.
So, Mike, we're getting ready to close on out here, but we're going to bring it. Got a couple of things for you before we go and end at this point. Do you have anything for Elijah and myself that you want to talk about? Anything, just in general?
So I know you've been saying like you watch us and everything. Like, what specifically have you guys been looking for when you see the Eye of the Storm? I know people have seen a couple different versions of EOS, but what have you guys been looking for when you say like, okay, man, that's catching my eye?
So, Elijah, you want to go first, or you want?
I can go first.
All right, go ahead.
So you might have been watching then, but it was a battle of the band. I can't remember where we were. You guys was there. We was there. I want to say, was it at Delaware State? Or it was back in the '04, '05, maybe '06, around that time, maybe.
05, I know we did a battle of the bands in Norfolk in 05.
I think that's might have been where I saw you guys at. We was there. Matter of fact, yeah, it was no. That was my actually first time seeing you guys. I would say I guess nothing really stood out, at that time. But now, I'm seeing the hell of a progress, here in the beach. I think somebody posted a video on Instagram, I want to say. Was it the Quint players?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, that's what that really caught my eye, starting, like I said, we don't play you guys, so I hardly ever get to see you guys. But, the videos that I'm seeing now, I really like, I'm hearing the beats, I'm hearing the groove. And that's what's sticking out to me.
Okay.
To me, yeah.
Okay, so on my end, just watching you guys throughout the years, it's just the evolution of the progression of the sound of the line, right? And I don't take anything away from the tenors, the upright tenors or chest tenors. They have a particular sound in the drum line, right? And what I noticed as soon as you guys stopped using those tenors, the sound of the line was cleaner. And like I said, nothing against that. I'm just letting you know, hey, look, there's a specific sound change in how you guys are playing. Forget about the look, because you guys are still, Delaware State. It's always going to be Delaware State, but the sound is something that really that I've noticed. 14 years ago, 8 years ago, 3 years ago, even 3 years ago, you guys were still using those tenors. And there's a clip of you guys playing about 3 years ago, and you pretty much had the full line, had snares even changed up, had the multi tenors, and you had that tenor drum was you can hear that over everything.
Right.
And as soon as you guys took that away to the present, now the line is coming through much clearer. So that's just going from the evolution of the sound, not per se the look. You guys look good. 14 years ago, you look good. I'm more or less talking about the sound at this point, and the sound is cleaner.
You hurting me, Ricardo, man. Like I said, man, it's been the reason why we haven't had the tenor drums is because of instrumentation and people to play the drums. It's funny because a lot of our alumni is like, oh man, are you gonna bring the tenor drums back? And there are specific cadences that we play that do require the tenor drum sound. And we actually still have them. I just don't have the players to play them. I'd rather have, and I feel like a lot of times instructors don't look at balanced drum lines when they have instrumentation.
Right.
You don't want too much bass and not have enough snare sound. You want to focus on like, are your quints going to be able to carry through and cut through, specific voicing and stuff like that. So that's something that we had to kind of, sit down and look at, the students that we had and things of that nature. So I hear what you're saying, but the tenor drums are going to come back. It's kind of like y'all. I think y'all have tenor drums now, leg tenors or something like that now. Huh?
Not by choice, but yeah.
Oh, not the chest, right? They're chest tenors, right?
Not by choice, but yeah.
but what I'm saying is that as soon as they have a specific sound that sticks out in the drum line. That's what I was more or less looking at.
I absolutely understand, man. I absolutely understand. Like it's funny because, like I said, I came from a core style line, and tenor drum is something that's difficult for me to write for. You know what I mean? I think Elijah, you did a podcast not too long ago. It was like you, and Tim Green and some of the cast, and like one of the questions was like, what's the most difficult instrument for you to write for? And I think yours was tenor drum because it's new to it. And it's the same thing with me. It's the same thing with me, man.
Yeah, I kean from core style high school also. Tonals was the tenor drum,
Right.
I'm real big heavy on tonals.
Right.
So, But to go back, I wasn't saying in a bad way when we saw you guys in '05, but I was saying, the past couple of years, what I've been seeing for the material has been sticking out to me.
Yeah, and I don't listen. I don't
Yeah.
take any of what was said as
Yeah.
bad.
Yeah.
Like I said, as we're continuing to push forward, and I'm continuing to hope that we get that time to build this product and this drumline the proper way. We're definitely looking to see what is our imprint on the culture. I feel like there's been so much done with drumlines and stuff like that that some people find it hard to find their own lane. Like you got some lines that want to look like Jackson, and then you kind of lose your identity because you're trying to look like Warren Thunder. And you got some people that's trying to look like, Million Dollar Funk Squad and so on and so forth. So what has been really the premise is to find our own lane and dig the trench from scratch for us, so that when people see the Eye of the Storm, they recognize that is Delaware State University's drumline, and it doesn't have a remnant of anybody else.
Oh man, good stuff there, man. So we're gonna close on out, but before we do, we always like to end our podcast with like a little couple bonus questions here for you.
Okay.
And what we like to really do is that, hey, Mike, sit back and think about any HBCU drumline, right? Just think about it, and you got to pass to get your hands on any HBCU drumline for 30 days to do work with. Anyone, who would it be?
Any
And,
drum,
and why? And why?
any drumline?
Any HBCU drumline and why?
Wow. Man, that's a hard question, man. That's a hard question. That's a hard question. Um, I don't even know, man. I don't even know. Low key, okay. I would probably, it would be a
You
couple, it would
got you got full reign.
full reign to do whatever I wanted.
It's your show for 30 days. You got full reign.
Shoot, I would probably either want to.
I make it easy for you. So leave the MEAC and the CIAA out. So what school in the SWAC or SEAC would you?
What's funny? I was actually thinking about a school
Okay.
in the SEAC. I would either say Clark, Atlanta, or Tuskegee. I would either
Okay.
say one of those schools. One, because I love Tuskegee's student involvement. Like their energy at the games is crazy, and I think everybody is a fan of that ball and parlay song. Um, but I would just want to see an underdog come up from the trenches and kind of surprise people. To be completely honest with you, I don't know if I would come in and add tonals and quints and everything like that. Because I don't think either of those lines march tonals. But I know what I would implement if I did have that line. There's like there's a style from up this way in Philly um, that I would probably implement there. I don't want to disclose it too much, but
Oh, please. Hey, look, that's going to be your secret weapon
I don't
with
want
Dale
to.
State.
But yeah, man, I definitely would want to, because I want to see more of our lines get more recognition. I feel like, we've seen a lot of, the premier lines in both the MEAC and the SWAC. You know what I mean? Um, and I really would like to see some of those other lines get some recognition and be able to get in the spotlight, kind of like you guys have provided this platform for us.
Yeah, man.
We've kind of been the bottom of the barrel in the MEAC, and I'm not even going to say kind of. We've been the bottom of the barrel in the MEAC for quite some time, and just the work we put in, and you guys allowing us to get this platform. So I would love to see another school who doesn't get that opportunity to get some good instruction in front of them, and clean some stuff up, refine some stuff for them, so that they can start getting that recognition as well.
Mike, I have to say this. This has been the first of a lot of things. Having you on You know, you mentioned Virginia State, gave us some history about our school as well. It's the first time we've heard anyone that we've had on the cast say anything about Tuskegee and Clark Atlanta. Anyone. So thank you. And like I said, this is the platform for everyone to come on and just say, hey, look, this is what we're about
Right.
for our viewers. So thank you for that.
Absolutely, man. Thank you guys.
Yeah.
No problem, no problem. So, you know, you said you watched a couple of our episodes, so you should know what question is coming next. Where are your drumsticks?
Oh man, in my bag in the living room. In my bag in the living room.
Come on, man.
Let me go grab one of my see there you go. There you go. I try to keep them away from my kids because my two babies just love to bang on everything, man.
Where them sticks at?
Where they at?
Yeah. See what he's got for us.
All right.
Oh, you got the pad too.
Yeah.
You got something for us? You got something for the viewers?
I don't do too much showboating and
Something
man.
quick.
you know,
Whatever you that's Mike. Just give us something that's Mike.
First of all, shout out to Cyrus Percussion.
Yeah.
That's who I'm on their education team, so we use those sticks.
Yeah.
Cool.
Let's see.
Okay.
Come on,
I see
man.
you.
Come on, there.
Shout out
There
to
it is.
out there. Shout out to
Yeah.
There it is. The man himself, Mike. Good job. Very impressed with what we talked about. Before we go ahead and end at this point, I just wanted to say thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to come on and talk with us. This was a real treat. Before we go, do you have anything for us?
Again, man, I love what you guys are doing with this particular platform. People love drums, but we're so often overlooked and undervalued for all the hard work we put in for the marching band. You know, a lot of people watch that movie Drumline is like the drumline is the heartbeat of the band, and it's very true, man. We never stop playing when we're marching. We're always working. I think we rarely see the band during band camp because we have so much to work on.
Yeah.
When it comes to, you know, what we have to do, and to have this platform for us to just be able to talk percussion, not just drums, but talk percussion, to be able to talk about the craft and the knowledge of the craft is really dope, man. So I appreciate you guys for giving me this platform, for acknowledging Delaware State University, because again, we have not had the opportunity to be recognized in this fashion. And I'm not one of those guys that takes the platforms like this. Like, I like to work behind the scenes. Like, you know, I teach the kids or students, excuse me, I teach the students. And when it's time for them to do what they do, y'all go do what y'all do. We'll talk about whatever happened afterwards, but I'm not usually the person that's like, I'm the face of whatever it is. But, you know, when you're doing good work, as you guys are doing, that recognition comes. So I say to the individuals that's out there, even to those smaller lines, if you have instructors, even if you don't, put the work in. Put the work in, continue to grind, and that recognition will come to you all. And people will see what you're doing. Just continue to stay diligent and stay steadfast to your goals.
Yeah. But Rick, before you move on, I'm sorry. You know, you said a good thing. You know, put in the work, but also utilize your resources. You know, you can probably hit up any instructor from any other school, you know, and ask for help, and they will be more than willing to help.
Absolutely.
So, you know, for all the young instructors or who don't have instructors, utilize your resources, ask for help.
That's one thing and that's a good point, E. That's one thing I do appreciate about being in this, I'm gonna call it a movement. But everybody is willing to share their knowledge. Everybody is willing to, you know, give you pointers on what you should or could do with any question you ask, and you just ask the right person. If they don't have the answer, they'll put you in the right direction. So even in this, with this, this is opening up a connection for me to, talk with you guys. Because again, Elijah, I don't think you and I have ever been able to shake hands and have conversation. But
Nope.
again, through admiration from afar, this has been a platform to be able to connect us in
Yes.
that regard. So again, this is
Yeah, we exchange numbers, after this, and emails, all that. Line is always open.
most definitely.
Yeah.
Well, good, Mike. Once again, and such a pleasure to have you on the cast at this point in time, man. It's just a real treat to really let our viewers know, and your friends, family member, who else, about what Delaware State is doing. And to me, you guys are doing some great things, not good, great things up there.
Yeah.
So keep it up, man. I'm gonna keep following. I'm gonna keep watching, and we'll reach out to you if we notice some things and everything. So getting ready to take it on out, everybody. EP, you want to do it?
All right. So once again, like Rick stated, I'd like to thank Mr. Michael Purnell for taking time out of his day, busy day, come on our episode podcast today. But we also want to let the viewers know, if you missed any previous episode or any episode, you can still go back, SoundCloud, YouTube, Facebook, iHeartRadio, Spotify, Pandora. And while you're there, please hit that like and subscribe button, share with your friends, family. Other than that, thank you for tuning in today. And until next time, be safe. Peace.